Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Episode 89 of the Last Round Podcast. Thanks again, guys, for joining us. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, Boxing Socials, YouTube, wherever you're at, we appreciate it. Just jumping right into it. Obviously, you can see myself and Mike here if you're watching the broadcast portion of this podcast. If you're listening, then I'm going to describe it for you guys to see who we have this week. We have the recently crowned last month, and probably the most, at least probably in Mike and our opinion, the most exciting fight the Top Rank has put on so far during this pandemic, at least to us as fans. The new super flyweight world champ, WBA super flyweight world champ, Joshua Franco joins us this week. How you doing, champ?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, you've been a champ, coming up on a month or essentially a month. How's this last month been since you won that title, especially since you've been home in Texas?
Oh, it's been good. Just spending time with my family, enjoying time with them, and just relaxing. And this week I started going back to the gym again. Just keep the rhythm going, and just wait for whatever coming next.
Are you in Texas currently right now?
Yes, I'm in San Antonio.
Okay, so when is like an estimated time frame that you might be coming back to California to start training again?
Maybe sometime in late August or early September I should be back.
Okay, so that's an estimated time frame. And then obviously, like we mentioned, you just won your first world championship. Can you kind of going back? Obviously, you won it from Andrew Moloney. Those couple seconds, or that 30 seconds or whatever, when they were announcing the scores, and obviously, though, that's a nervous time to be in, especially for a fighter, especially as a world, being in a world championship fight. Can you take us through your mindset during those couple seconds before they actually announced that you were the winner and you were the new world champ?
Yeah, I was kind of nervous because it was a top ranked show, and I was fighting against the world champion, and before the decision, Robert was kind of talking to the judges or somebody that was next to the judges from Top Rank. So I started getting kind of nervous, maybe thinking that they were trying to steal the fight or even make it a draw. But I just had that faith that I was gonna win, and sure enough, I got the win.
How was it, Josh, coming in on such a late notice? Because obviously Moloney was a 9-1 favorite to win the fight.
It wasn't a big deal. When I got the call, I had about 6 weeks left, 6 weeks of training, and I had started training the week before that. So it was kind of perfect timing when they gave me the call. I said yes, and the next day I was already in Riverside.
How many of your friends became rich by betting on you since you were such an underdog?
Yeah, a lot of. Well, I had a few friends that betted on me, but a lot of random people that also won money. I know one of my friends from California. He won like 18 grand, I think. But it was crazy that all the people that were betting. I try to think about it not too much. Before the fight, but it was crazy.
Now, Josh, do you like to go by Josh or Joshua?
Whatever.
It doesn't matter?
Josh.
Okay, cool.
Nah,
because we know some people sometimes like, oh, I don't like Joshua, I don't like Josh. So you kind of want to make sure you say the right thing sometimes. So, but you mentioned earlier that it was a top ranked show, obviously, and you are a Golden Boy fighter essentially. You fight under Golden Boy Promotions, so you went to the top rank on the ESPN card. So obviously, that is something you have to think about in the sport of boxing, obviously, with different promotions on different networks and stuff. And your trainer, Robert Garcia, he's already kind of said it in I think his own show. And we've talked about it just enough, but like he talks about how He did say something to a top rank official just before the announcement, saying, "Hey, you know, pretty much, essentially, don't do the right thing, don't rob my fighter." You know, just because you're in the game, you're a professional fighter and stuff like that, and you got somebody like as revered as Robert Garcia, who you've been with for quite a while now, saying something like that. You know, what's your take on something like that and the dealings that happen like that in the sport of boxing?
Oh, well, you know, when Robert was, you know, saying that, you know, I was just thinking that, you know, he knows, you know, he has the experience. He knows, you know, when he sees something wrong, that he knows that something's wrong. So, you know, when he was saying that, you know, kind of, like I said, it kind of made me think, you know, kind of made me like doubt that that I thought they were going to rob me. So, you know, I was worried, but, you know, thank God I have, you know, someone like Robert in my corner who knows a lot, who has all the experience with me. So, you know, it was good having him.
How did you first link up with Robert Garcia? Obviously, since you're based in Texas.
I linked up with him through my little brother and my friend Hector Takahara. They were fighting at the National Pal Tournament in Oxnard, and Pita, I went to go see them fight. Robert's son Pita, and you know he was scouting them, and he liked what they saw, and you know my little brother Hector had told Pita about me. So you know Pita had wanted to see videos and stuff, so we sent them to him and Robert, and you know that's how everything got started. They liked what they saw, and that's when all the talk started getting. That's when we started talking about signing with Golden Boy and stuff like that.
I think you're the 13th world champion out of that gym. What makes Robert different?
He knows the right things to say. He has all the experience. He's made 13 world champions now. He's been in the game for so long, and he just knows how to keep you motivated. He knows how to keep you focused, and he just knows all the right things to do, and that's what makes him a great coach.
Josh, you mentioned we talked about how Pita kind of was the kind of one who kind of brought you into the stable. I saw just after you won, somebody tweeted out that you're the first world champ that Pita brought into the stable. So after does he feel like all badass about that now? Like, oh yeah, Dad, check it out. Like one of the guys I got is a world champ now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he feels pretty good that I was one of his one of the first kids that he was scouting. So yeah, I'm sure he feels really really proud of himself, really really happy, and I'm sure he feels really good.
And you sparred with Ronnie Rios for this fight, right?
Yeah, I was sparring with Ronnie Rios a lot, and with Hector Valdez.
And how was that? How was those sparring sessions?
It helped me a lot. Ronnie, who's one of the best at 122. Just great work. I can't get any better work than that. He helped me the most during this camp. So I'm very grateful for that sparring. I've been sparring him for a while now, and every time we spar, it helps me grow as a fighter.
So somebody, as Mike mentioned earlier, obviously that you were essentially a last-minute replacement to face Moloney. Somebody very well, obviously, was originally scheduled to fight him is Oscar Negrete, who you fought multiple times, and every fight has been, pretty entertaining so far. I don't know if you guys are on speaking terms because you guys have fought so many times in so many wars, but did you get a chance to maybe talk to him before or kind of pick his brain for the Moloney fight, or was it just you got that fight and you got to work?
Since after the last fight that we had, we just became kind of we became friends a little bit. Even now we keep in touch through social media. Just saying what's up, how's he doing and stuff like that. I had nothing but respect for him, and for all the trilogies we had, I have no choice but to respect him, and he earned my respect, and I'm pretty sure I earned his. So just we have a good friendship.
Did he hit you up after you won the title, pretty much saying, "Dang man, you got in my spot and you won"? Did you have a conversation with him?
Nah, he told me congrats, and even before the fight, he was wishing me good luck, and just telling me good things. That he knows I was gonna win, and that I'm a great fighter. So hearing that from somebody I went to war 30 rounds with, it's a great feeling.
So is it true that your dad didn't, when you were growing up, your dad didn't let you box until you were about in your teenage years, like about 13?
Yeah, well, it was mostly my mom. My mom didn't want me to box. I don't know why, but I've always liked boxing since I was a kid. My mom and my dad, they always used to watch the big fights on the HBO. My mom was a big Fernando Vargas fan, and my dad was a Mike Tyson fan. So they've always been around the sport. They always watched it. So I mean, maybe they knew how brutal it was. They didn't want me to get into it. But finally, when I was 13 years old, my dad took me to the gym, and ever since then, I never stopped going.
Now, were you able to, obviously, you were within what they're calling the bubble up there in Vegas for Top Rank. And I know they're very strict on who comes in, who comes out. Besides your actual corner team, Robert Garcia, Pita, and your whole team right there, were you able to have anybody, maybe from your family, one or two people, to be there to see it, or did they all see it on TV?
Yeah, they all watched it on TV, but they were out in Vegas, just not in the room with me. The only person I had was my dad that was with me, and Pita and Robert. But yeah, I mean, it was just them. It was different because usually I have my family with me. After the weigh-ins and before the fight, and we're always together. So it was different to not have them there.
So what was it like fighting? Pretty much, it's a actual fight, a pro level fight on TV, on ESPN, and then there's no crowd. Like the first time, like when you were coming out to start that fight, what was your mentality? Like, damn, like this is kind of crazy. There's nobody here.
I was just so focused and in the zone that I didn't even even think about it. And then especially when I felt the first punch, I was just like, all right, all that. I didn't think about no crowd or nothing. I just I was just there, to do what I do.
Any update, Josh, on the rematch? Because I think Moloney had a rematch clause in the contract.
No update. I know that that he did exercise the rematch clause. So now I'm just waiting to see getting that call and get ready to go.
If not, will we see like Chocolatito and Cajas, Estrada?
Yeah, on Cajas Chocolatito, those would be great fights. But I think me and Chocolatito will put a great war for the fans and for everybody that loves boxing. That would be a great fight to watch, me versus Chocolatito, two fighters that throw a lot of punches, put pressure. Why not? Let's give the fans a great fight.
You've already sparred one of the probably one of Mexico's best in Mikey Garcia. I saw an interview where you actually asked Mikey to jump in the ring with you.
Yeah, well, how was that?
Yeah, I mean, Mikey was just working with me, and he knows that that he's one of my favorite fighters, and that I'm always watching him in the gym. So, I'm always messing around with different fighters in the gym, saying, "Hey, let's spar," just to mess around and just play with them. But Mikey actually wanted to get in the ring with me, maybe just so I could be quiet or something and stop asking him. But he finally did it, and he was just working with me. And in the first round, I was already tired, going back to the corner.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's definitely a bigger guy than you. But I mean, like I was telling Mike before your fight against Moloney last month, because we were split. Me and him were split. He thought Moloney was going to win, and I was like, I don't know, man. I think Franco's going to take it. Franco gets some good work at that gym, But it was kind of like we were on the fence. Like it was a competitive fight. Obviously, you had your hands full, and he had his hands full. But my reasoning behind it, what I was telling Mike, is that I think that trilogy you had with Negrete really sharpened your skills a lot. Regardless of the outcomes of either or, whoever won, whoever lost, it sharpened both of your skills a lot. So even if, at least in my opinion, if Negrete actually took that fight, Negrete still would have had, in my opinion, a really good chance against Moloney. And when they announced your substitution, I was just like, I mean, I think it's kind of like the same guy fighting him, because they're both, they're both sharp. So I think, I mean, how do you feel? Do you think that the trilogy with Negrete really kind of leveled you up in the sport?
Yeah, of course, I think so. Those trilogies, 30 rounds with a top, super good fighter like a great fighter like Oscar Negrete, doesn't stop throwing punches, puts pressure. He could take a good punch. He's quick. Just it showed me a lot. Having to fight 10 rounds. You don't get a break at all with Oscar Negrete. He keeps coming. Everything you throw, he takes it and he keeps coming. So, fighting different styles. Not having to fight as hard as I did against Negrete. Someone that puts pressure. Nonstop. It taught me a lot, and it helped me grow. Poised as a fighter. Help my technique, help my thinking, and just everything. It leveled me up big time.
Josh, how does it feel to be only 24 years old, a world champion, and you've already headlined on ESPN?
It's man, I'm blessed. I'm grateful for all these opportunities that God gave to me, and I just work hard. I keep working hard. Hard work, dedication is what it takes, and I'm just very blessed. For to be a world title holder, and to, like you said, headline on ESPN. It's a dream. Just words can't describe how I feel about all that stuff, man. It's a blessing.
When you get back to California, are you the number one guy at the gym now?
Probably Mikey. Mikey or Jose Ramirez, one of those guys, those top dogs.
Now, in terms of the rematch with Moloney, obviously, he's announced that he's going to exercise the rematch. At least from your perspective, like, let's just say you win again. Is there like a third clause that you have to fight him, or are you going to bring that belt back to the zone essentially?
Yeah, not that I know of. I know just he had the rematch clause for this fight, and we there probably will be a rematch, and it's gonna be another great fight for the fans. But after this one, I want Chocolatito, Ancajas, anybody with a title that's holding a title. I want to unify.
Josh, you said in an interview not too long ago that your younger brother is actually a better prospect than you, in your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, he is. He's a lefty. He has great skills, great power for his size, great IQ. His timing's very good, and right now he's ranked number 3 at the WBO and WBA. So he's waiting for his opportunity, and he will be a world title holder as well. And he has a bright future ahead of him. But I've always said that he's a better fighter than me, and I'm happy that that he could see my journey and learn from my mistakes and different things.
Josh, you're a Texas native, the same as Vergil Ortiz. Can you just put to bed the big debate that Vergil always says? Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Whataburger. Whataburger, but In-N-Out is good too. I like both of them. But Whataburger, they just have bigger burgers.
So that's the difference for you. Is it the size? They give you more food.
I think, yeah, the size is different, and I mean, like I said, In-N-Out's still good, but I was raised off Whataburger.
Everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, since you're in the flyweight division, super flyweight division, would you want? And I'm assuming this is a pretty easy answer, but would you want something like for a while, for like 2-3 years, we had the Superfly events. They were out in the Forum at the StubHub Center. Can you see something like that kind of starting up again? Because the whole division, you got some pretty competitive guys, and now you got a world title and stuff like that. Would you want to see another Superfly event like that?
Of course, I mean, that was a great, what they did back then, and why not do it now? I feel like there's more talent now than there was a little while ago. A couple of years ago, there's more talent in the division now than there was back then. So why not put another Superfly show on and have a little tournament right there.
Josh, you've already achieved a lot, like I touched on before, at the age of 24. What else have you got on your boxing bucket list, like fighting over in the UK or bringing big fights back to San Antonio?
Yeah, of course. Dream of mine is to defend a world title at the Alamo Dome and in San Antonio, Texas. Have all of my my family and friends witness me defending a world title.
Josh, on a kind of lighter note, just because it just a more somber note, actually, just because it just recently happened. And he's also a Texas native. One of your stablemates from Golden Boy just recently tragically passed away in a car accident, Black Magic Travell. Is it, I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Is it Maison? Maison?
Yeah, I think it's Maison. Yeah.
Just kind of get your initial reaction when you heard about that.
Yeah, when I heard about it, man, I was just shocked because, it's crazy. Someone like, so young and, so talented, he had a bright future ahead of him. It's crazy, to hear things like that. And just, I was really shocked, when I got the news, and I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It was just, I never thought, anything, he's just so young, so talented. It's crazy, man.
When did you first meet him?
I met him when I was, I remember, I would think I was about like 14 or 15 at the some tournament in the amateurs. I had met him there. He fought one of my friends. I think he fought against Mario Barrios in the tournament. And, I had met him at that age, and, he was just so little, but, we weren't really, we didn't really grow up like that. How me, Hector, Mario, different fighters, but he was always around at the tournaments, and we've always talked, I've always seen him around in the amateurs, and even in the pros we talked a little bit, but it's just crazy because he's from an hour away from we are in Austin, and to hear that he passed away, it was sad.
Yeah, it's definitely tragic, and obviously we send our condolences to his family and friends. It's unfortunate, but were you signed to Golden Boy before he was, or were you guys pretty much I think you were probably signed before, right?
No, I think he was. I think he had turned pro before me, and he got signed with them, I think, when he turned pro.
Oh wow, okay. Yeah. I thought you were signed before, so I guess it was him. I guess kind of going back on a little lighter note, talking about your stablemates, you talked about Hector Takahara and all that stuff. Obviously Hector Takahara, Vergil Ortiz, those guys, at least at the moment, they're probably like just under the step of getting a world title shot, especially Vergil. Who do you think gets it first, if any? Is it Hector or Vergil?
They're both ready for it, and I would say whoever gets the opportunity first, they're gonna go ahead and capture that world title. They're both ready for it. They spar with each other in the gym, give each other great work, and they have what it takes, and they have the skills. They have the drive, the heart, everything it takes to be a world champion. So I would say whoever gets the opportunity first is gonna get that belt.
And then the rematch, we're assuming it will be on ESPN, right? Since he had the title first, it was their contract essentially.
Yeah, it's gonna be on ESPN. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So as of right now, you're going to be on ESPN again, and obviously, if you win, then I'm sure you'll defend it on DAZN after that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's what it's looking like, unless something else pops up. But for now, the rematch on ESPN. So we'll see what happens after that.
Right. Well, Mike, do you have any parting words before we let him go? I know he kind of gave us his time today, so we appreciate it. But Mike, do you have anything else?
Like Danny touched on, Josh, you got two of your stablemates, Vergil Ortiz against Sammy Vargas this week from Fantasy Springs. How do you see that one going?
I don't think it goes past 7. Vergil's something else. He's a different animal. I feel like he's gonna stop him. Break him down little by little, and get him out of there. He's ready for a world title shot. He's up there with the big dogs, and once he gets that fight, it's gonna show. So I just see Vergil stopping him maybe like in under 7.
What did he ever say anything to you guys in the gym? Why he called out Keith Thurman? Like, did you see something in Keith that he thinks he can beat him? Or obviously, I guess.
I don't know. I never heard about that. When Vergil doesn't really talk much. When he's in the gym, he's always in his zone working. But he never told me or any. I never heard anything about Keith Thurman.
Who has the biggest? Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I said maybe I just made it up.
I know.
Or maybe I don't know.
I remember hearing that too, though. I read it actually.
Maybe like in an interview, maybe an interview or something. But I never heard him talk about Keith Thurman.
Who has the biggest mouth in the gym out of all the fighters? Like, it doesn't matter who it is. Like, who's in there and like, if you're sparring them, they're just kind of giving you lip service, and you're just like, man, this little shit. Like,
I mean, not with me, but with other fighters, Brandon Rios. We had this one kid. They called him B-Fly. He always used to run his mouth too, or not run his mouth, but like kind of talk bad and just. But so far, everybody in the gym, they don't really talk much. It's just work. But every now and then you get that person that likes to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Josh, Mike got one more.
Yeah, I was just going to ask him about the co-main event, Hector Takahara against Mosquito Hester.
Oh,
That's a big step up. That's a big step up for Takahara. Hester's been in there with Linares, and I thought in those first few rounds when he fought Linares that Hester did pretty well. So how do you see that one?
It's a great fight. I feel like Hector's gonna win. He has really good skills. He's a really good boxer. He has a good IQ in the ring, and he should be able to beat Jesta on when is it, Friday or Saturday, something like that.
It's Friday. I think Friday.
Friday, yeah. I see Hector winning. I feel like even if it's a tough fight, he has what it takes to pull it out and get the job done. He's gonna win.
Yeah, I think it is a cool fight though. Like we were gonna talk about this right after we let you go, but I as of right now I don't know who's gonna win. I think it's a pretty competitive fight. I think Takahara is taller, obviously, so that gives him an advantage. But Hester's no pushover, so it's
I haven't really seen Hester fight, but now that y'all are talking about it like that, I'm gonna have to go watch some of his fights and see what's up.
yeah, like Mike said, like when he fought Linares a couple years back, he gave Linares a pretty good fight. Like Linares won, but like Hester had some pretty good moments, and he did fight well for getting in there with somebody like Linares at the time. So.
I was hoping that Takahara was going to get the Ryan Garcia fight when they were considering opponents a few weeks back.
Yeah, that would be a great fight. Two young prospects going at it, and fireworks, and that would have been a good fight for sure. Maybe after this one, that fight will happen or something. Hopefully, but you guys are saying that it's going to be a competitive. Seeing Hector in the gym, he does great in sparring. He does, great everything, training, everything. So, it's going to be a great fight, I'm sure.
Is there anybody at Robert Garcia's gym that we might not know about that you look at and you just think to yourself, like, you know what, he's going to be a really good prospect or a world champion?
One of my friends from San Antonio, his name's Robert Rodriguez. They call him Biggie. He fought on ESPN I think a couple weeks or a week before I did, and he got a stoppage, I think, in the first round. He has a great talent. The guy I was sparring, Hector Valdez Jr., he's with Golden Boy. He has a great bright future. He could be a world champion as well. There's just a lot of talent in the gym, and and if you really want it and you work hard, you stay dedicated. You could do whatever you dream of. So I feel like everybody in the gym, if they want, that they could become world champions. It's just all right here, and you got to work hard.
It's true.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, Josh, we appreciate your time. We know you got somewhere to be right now, so we appreciate the time you've given us tonight. Congratulations again on the world title win last month. And obviously, if we don't talk to you before the rematch happens, whether it's in a couple months or whenever it happens, we obviously wish you the best of luck. So before we let you go ahead and plug your social media or anything you got business wise. Go ahead and plug it, man.
I just want to say thank you for you guys for reaching out to me and for the time for having it wasn't a that great of an interview because I'm right here in the car, bad connection kind of. So sorry for that, and thank you guys for your time. You can follow me on Instagram at Professor Franco and Twitter Joshua Franco _.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good luck to you, Josh. And then, like I said, good luck to you in the rematch. And then if you ever want to come back on or you want to try to get one of your stablemates on or something, you can obviously just reach out to us and we'll help you guys out. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys. Then
I told you, man, you should have picked him from the beginning. I think the second fight with Moloney will be even more competitive than the first. I do think that, but I give Moloney a little bit more credit. I don't want to say credit. I give him more of a chance in the rematch because maybe he's hungrier. Because that saying, always train like the challenger. But I still think Franco is gonna retain it and he's gonna win the rematch. What do you think?
Yeah, he did come on a lot from those fights with Oscar Negrete because some of those fights with Negrete, I think the one that we were at, the third one, the last one, I think we both had Josh losing it. I thought that we had Negrete outworking him. But then when you looked at that body of work in those three fights and that loss, I think it was in Puerto Rico, to how his performance against Moloney, it was night and day. You could just see he'd come of age, all those, weeks and months of sparring at Robert Garcia's gym, been around all those professionals, like he said, Mikey Garcia, Jose Cito Lopez, Jose Ramirez. He looked, a different type of fighter. But at the same time, you've got to look at Moloney came over here. He had the WBA champ, but, he never really fought in the US. How good were those opponents that he'd had, back home in Australia?
Right.
You got to kind of weigh these things up. But, Franco's the champ. And then now he's just got to, keep himself on top. He seems very grounded. He seems very professional. I don't think he's going to be a Gervonta Davis Broner where he's going to be 24/7 and not making weight. So, now he's got to, be the champ, keep himself, fit and healthy and have all those contenders trying to take it off him. So, now the real work starts, I guess.
Imagine that, though. Imagine what a twist that would be if he all of a sudden from one day to the next, he has that Adrian Broner, Gervonta Davis lifestyle. And it's just like, where the hell did this come from?
That's what happens, doesn't it? When you get the champion belt around you and you get the bigger paydays and, everybody becomes your friend. I bet if we thought about it hard enough, we could probably think of people that happened to.
Right. No, you're right. I mean, it does happen. It does happen when your status, especially as a professional athlete, or in anything, but especially if you're on a big stage, on a big platform, like professional sports, entertainment, stuff like that, Hollywood, if your status levels up overnight and, you start getting more attention and stuff like that, more money, obviously, it unfortunately does happen.
Kind of like with the podcast, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a great analogy, Mike. That's a great analogy. But you're right, though. I think I agree that I think he's pretty level-headed. I think Robert Garcia, for the most part, over the years, he has a pretty good grip on his fighters in at that stable in Riverside, out here in Riverside, California. I feel like a lot of them do have fun together, or they talk smack to each other, or they kind of go back and forth or whatever. But when they get in the gym, especially when they're training for a fight, they really get down to work. So, that's why I said, man, that was my X factor for this fight, that first fight when he won against Moloney, was that the work he's been getting, and it's not like he just joined Robert Garcia like last year or earlier this year. Like, he's been with them for quite a few years now. And like he said, they all kind of spar each other. I know he was in there with Mikey, and I'm sure Mikey didn't really go too crazy on him, but the fact that he goes in there and he gets sparring like that, or even sparring somebody like Ronnie Rios, who's also coming off the biggest win of his career when he beat Diego De La Hoya. I believe it was last year at the StubHub Center. Somebody like Ronnie Rios is no joke, and I'm sure that was good work. So I'm telling you, and like you said, Moloney trains and lives in Australia, right? So, I mean, I think just kind of by doing the eyeball test, I think we can kind of guess that California, especially Southern California, has a lot better sparring partners and a lot better work that you can get in terms of training when you're leading up to a fight. I mean, who was it? Isn't it Lee Selby, friend of the show, who said that he comes out to Southern California for his sparring, for his training, essentially, because this is the best work that you can get, right?
Yeah, he told me when I was in the gym with him that, he comes out here because you get the good sparring, some of those up-and-coming guys, you give them a body shot and, some of the dudes in England would go down, but, the young Mexican fighters, they're so hungry to get out of the situations that they're in. He said they just carry on. They just fight through it. So, that's why he likes to come out here for his sparring every camp. Right.
I mean, do you think that now that Moloney lost the title, obviously he has a rematch clause, so he's going to exercise. He's already exercised. He's already said at least. Do you think that he's going to change anything for his training regimen for this rematch? Do you think he might make his camp out here in California or maybe in Vegas to say, maybe, I need some better work, so I'm going to stay out here for 6 weeks or something like that,
I think he'd probably do his camp out here. He intended to do the latter end of his camp for the fight originally out here. Obviously, the coronavirus kind of put a stop to that, and I think he only did the last couple of weeks. But at the same time, he had thanks to Franco punching him, but he had a few injuries, like perforated eardrum and stuff like that, which obviously affected him really badly during the fight. Franco caused that, but that might not happen in the second fight. He might not get caught in that perfect place to perforate his eardrum. So,
right,
it's a good fight. It really is. Looking forward to that. It just depends how long is Franco going to have a fight in between because of those injuries, the coronavirus and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's a tough division. It really is. I think I can see those belts getting swapped around quite a lot between Cajas, Chocolatito, even Franco, Estrada. The names just keep coming.
Well, that's why I asked him about the Superfly thing because, now that Chocolatito's kind of back in the mix, when he obviously had those couple losses with Sorung Visai and stuff like that, he was kind of, on the sidelines for a little bit. He was on a losing streak and stuff like that. But, I mean, Chocolatito does bring eyeballs to that division. He has proven that over the years, especially when he was being the co-main event to Triple G cards out here in LA, especially. So, I think those are fun cards, man. I mean, I think anybody knows, any hardcore boxing fan knows, or any sports fan knows, the lower weight classes produce the most action because they have more speed and stuff like that. So, I hope to see another Superfly.
Well, we were at the Superfly. We were both at it before we even knew each other.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, we were each 10 years old. Yeah, you're right. But, obviously, I think I wasn't going to ask him, but, do you think that in the rematch clause, how much more do you think he's going to make? Or do you think it's kind of like the similar pay because Top Rank kind of had the power in the first contract and Moloney was a champion? I mean, do you think Franco's going to make more money? Do you think that's written into the contract?
I would assume so. It would just make sense, doesn't it? If it's not written into the contract, because Moloney's not that much of a bigger name than Franco. That he would demand the largest side of the purse. But thanks to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, we will now never know what people are going to get paid.
That's true, and that's a great transition, Mike. Obviously, within the last couple of days or so, week or so, there was a report. I don't know if it was. I think it's already confirmed. They already announced it. It's already listed on their site. But the Nevada State Athletic Commission, which is one of the major athletic commissions, especially for boxing in the United States, announced that a new rule pretty much saying that they won't release fighter pay, or at least what they're reported to. I've seen, kind of keeping an eye on the conversation, at least on boxing Twitter and on boxing forums and stuff. Some people say hey, it's not a big deal, whatever, I don't care. And some people say nah, we deserve to know. What do you think? You go first, and then I'll give my opinion.
I don't think we deserve to know. You can kind of guesstimate what people are going to get paid. You're not always going to be right. But it was always kind of interesting to see, because sometimes you'd see a purse for somebody and you're like, how on earth are they earning that much money? And then you see another fighter and they're earning half that amount, and you're thinking,
Jesse Vargas?
Well, it actually was someone I was thinking of, to be honest. Does for him, for example, when he was in the right place at the right time and he was getting think it was like $1 million a fight for that DAZN contract because he was kind of a name. DAZN needed people. And then you get Chocolatito, because he's in a lower weight class. Like, he probably makes a few $100,000 a fight just because he's not in, one of those, like a welterweight or a middleweight or a heavyweight that just because you're in that division, you're commanding big money. Whereas, Chocolatito to the hardcore boxing fans, years ago was, a pound for pound great. And even with, Tom Loeffler and Dougie Fisher kind of pushing that division, as you touched on with the Superfly, 1 and 2 cards and maybe even another one in, next year, maybe. So it is interesting more than anything. I don't think we have to know. And we always know that sometimes the purses are very small, but, they make more on the back end or, they kind of just tell the commission that and they earn more so they can, fluff the taxes, I guess. But it's just, you like to compare and contrast, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. And I'm on the same boat. It's like, I think it's just interesting to know, especially because like you see in other sports, in other major sports, you always see like, oh, so-and-so signed for this many years for this amount of money, or this, I just signed an extension, or this free agent just signed with this team or something like that. And the money's always a big issue, or I don't want to say it's an issue like a negative thing, but it's always a point of interest. Cause like you said, like it's interesting to people. It's like one of those universal things that everybody essentially around the world, or essentially every fan in the sport of that particular sport can relate to, because everybody needs money. Everybody needs, in your case from your motherland, pounds, everybody needs that. Like that makes the world go around essentially. Like, you need it. Like you might, so I think it's just like in that regard, it's universally interesting, whether it's a bad interesting or good interesting, people kind of pay attention. It's kind of like pay-per-view guys, right?
Yeah.
So
I wonder if the fighters want to know, because even though, like we said, they're not correct because there's more on the back end and stuff like that, you still have a roundabout figure of where a rival is in terms of your pay. So now if you're a middleweight, you have really no idea what everyone else is earning around you. So you don't really know what to ask for. Like, are you being overpaid? Are you being underpaid? So I wonder how fighters feel. Like, maybe they don't want it out there. But if you're an up and coming fighter, you kind of want to know, where your rivals are at. Like, are you getting vastly underpaid? Now you won't really know because you can't listen to what somebody says, because I'm sure everyone's going to say like, oh, I'm earning $100,000 a fight when they're nowhere near that, because they just want to obviously show off and pretend they're a bit, they're a big shot. So it is interesting, and I think everybody who read it, jumped straight down straight at looking at Dana White, saying it was him in the UFC that tried to put a stop to it.
Well, I mean, like no, you're right. You're right. I think when that kind of news broke or that started coming out, and we kind of talked about it, we were texting about it. Like, that's one thing we touched on. Or I think I touched on. Really, like, I mean, like the UFC, arguably. I mean, I wouldn't even say arguably, even as a hardcore boxing fan, the UFC, especially in the state of Nevada in Las Vegas, has a stronger, I guess, grip. They have a stronger influence than boxing does, than like Top Rank does and stuff like that. Like, especially because they just sold their company, not too long ago, a year or two ago, for multi-billion dollars, $4 billion. I don't even know how much. It was ridiculous. So I don't think it's that far-fetched to say that Dana White, UFC, was kind of behind the push, like a lobbying. They had, they were lobbying the State Athletic Commission to be like, hey, you know what, you should change it, because it's true. Because, I mean, how long has that been a topic for MMA, especially UFC, in terms of fighter pay? Because all these boxers, like you said, some of the lesser, there's a lot of boxers over the years who are less well known than some UFC fighters, and they're making more money per each fight than some of these like more well-known UFC fighters. So that was obviously a topic of contention and stuff. And obviously, as a business owner, somebody like a Dana White or UFC brass, UFC management, you know, I mean, you can kind of see if that continues to be a topic and it keeps growing and growing and growing, and every time pay comes out, is released and stuff like that, that's obviously going to push your expenses up because fighters are going to want to be like, hey, man, like, you know, I want to get paid more. These guys are paying, you know, and it just creates more tension and stuff like that. So from a business perspective, it's like, dang, this is going to kill us. So I agree that the UFC was largely probably behind it, and I hope we kind of hear some more details as time goes out. But that doesn't sound far fetched at all.
No, because if you look at how this year has gone, you had John Jones complaining about his pay, Jorge Masvidal complaining about his pay, Henry Cejudo retired because he wanted more pay. You had, I can't remember his name, but there was a top 10 in his division fighter who got paid that little that he actually was still working at like American Roadhouse as a waiter.
That's
and
crazy.
He was in his division.
That's crazy.
Like that. And, you know, a lot of the fighters are lobbying for those guys to make a union. So I don't see it being a huge coincidence that those are some of the major problems that they're having at the UFC. And then suddenly the Nevada decide to not disclose their pay. It's too much of a coincidence that both happened this year. So
Right. But I mean, like, you got to look at it this way, is that, like, obviously the UFC is based in Nevada. That's their headquarters. And there's obviously a lot of fights that happen in Las Vegas. You know, there's a lot of money that's coming in from the casinos, no state tax and stuff like that. It's a big fight capital for boxing and MMA. But, you know, if the fight capital was New York or Florida, or UFC was based in Texas or something like that, I'm sure you would see them trying to lobby them, you know? Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, I think that also kind of begs the question, does somebody like California and New York, etc., do they follow and do the same thing that Nevada does?
Some of the smaller ones might, buckle to the pressure, because Nevada and California and probably New York are the three biggest states that hold the biggest fights, have the most professional commissions, so they may just follow suit. But those are the only ones really of any relevance. You know, any fights coming out of like Alabama and places like that, like, it's not that big a fight, is it? So,
right,
it's interesting to see. And I wonder if it's just going to get swept under the carpet because it got released that day and it soon died away. So,
right. But I mean, like, I know, you know, there's always still going to be reporters who are still going to be able to find out the information, or at least find out enough information where they're still going to be able to report it. You know, there's still going to be leakers within the business who are going to leak something, like maybe somebody from somebody's camp, like, hey, you know, this is kind of what we're making, so can I go report that? So it can kind of start like a narrative to kind of, maybe they want to push a certain narrative in the media, or try to kind of drum up interest or something like that. You know, like, I don't know. I still think that you're still going to see reports of it, even though, especially because this obviously only applies when you're fighting in the state of Nevada. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're fighting outside of it at the moment, you know, you can still report the whatever numbers they give to them. But, you know, we'll see how it pans out. But I still think people are going to see certain numbers. You know, talking about, I know we touched on the DAZN card with Joshua Franco for a little bit, but, you know, the Takahara Hester fight, which I completely forgot about. You know, because obviously Vergil Ortiz is headlining, so you kind of, that's the main event. You always think about the main event first. That Takahara Hester fight, I'm telling you, I think that's going to be very competitive, and I like how he kind of listened to me. He was just like, oh, you know, maybe I need to check it out. Maybe, like, I need to see how Hester actually fights. Like, I mean, what do you think? I think it's going to be pretty competitive.
I think it'll be a competitive fight. It's a pretty good co-main event. You know, Takahara's up and coming, technical, tall for that division. Probably will grow out of that division over a few years. Hester, you know, it's kind of been kind of quiet. He had that big Linares fight, came back, had a couple of wins at Fantasy Springs, I think, when we were there. And then, you know, he's just been in camp after that, kind of waiting really to try and get a bigger fight. You kind of got to wonder, where are Golden Boy holding him now? The fact that they're kind of throwing him in there with a prospect, like a Golden Boy kind of thinking now he's a journeyman. So it's kind of a crossroads fight for Hester. If he starts getting beaten up by, Golden Boy's prospects, it's probably not going to get many big fights anymore.
I mean, maybe, yeah, that's actually a good point. Maybe that, like, I still think that he's a good fighter. Like we brought up and we repeated how he gave Linares a pretty decent fight.
Yeah, I thought
it was an entertaining fight. It was at the Forum, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good point. I didn't think about it like that. That Takahara is technically still a prospect. I mean, he is a prospect. I think he's like 20-0 or 21-0 or something, undefeated. And Hester, has been in the ring with Linares, especially, multiple time world champ Linares and stuff like that. And now they have him in a ring with like a prospect within the Golden Boy. So I think that's a good point. Like, is this a crossroads fight for him? It's highly possible that it is, like, but
I would say it is, because you can kind of see a trend when it comes to fighters and their opponents. When you're coming up, you're given kind of like easier fights, and then obviously you get to those journeyman ones who are kind of hard and may take you rounds. And then you get to that point where you're fighting like the big names who are kind of coming down the hill and they need a little payday. And then you get to the contenders and the world champions. So, Hector Takahara technically would be the A side on the left-hand side of the poster, and Hester, kind of a big name. He's been in there with Linares fighting for a world title. And now he's on the B side. He's just on the right-hand side of the poster. So you're kind of looking at, like, is that where Golden Boy have him now? Or is it just to test out Takahara, but, Hester's still going to get fights in the future? So,
well, you also got to look at it, too, in terms of, look at Oscar Negrete. Didn't he fight that world champion?
Ray
Vargas, right? Mm-hmm. And he lost. But, he obviously Ray Vargas is ridiculous for that weight class. He's tall, he's lanky, like, it's ridiculous. We don't know how he makes that weight. But I mean, would you say that Oscar Negrete, when they put him in there with Joshua Franco, the times after or whatever, like, was that a crossroads fight for him because he had a world title shot and stuff like that? Or
I think the first time they probably thought Franco was going to win, and then when Franco, when it would turn out to be the thrilling fight that it was, they just put it on again to get another winner. And then it ended up being the same sort of thing, like record-breaking numbers in terms of punches thrown. And they were probably both just thought, why not do it again? So they did it again.
Right.
I was wrong at the time. I kind of thought that wasn't doing the best for Franco's career. But, as the chips fell, he managed to replace Negrete and ended up getting that shot at the WBA title and grabbed it with both hands.
That's crazy. Yeah. But yeah, like they said, I think that's a very good point, that it could be a crossroads fight for Hester. In my opinion, I don't think Golden Boy is looking at it as a crossroads fight for Hester. I just think that, like anybody knows who's in the business or who kind of knows how the business of boxing works, it's obviously easier to make a fight between two guys who are under your stable already, under the same promotional banner, and you also have to take into account the pandemic, and it's the first DAZN card that we've had during this pandemic, and Golden Boy obviously has to produce the fights for DAZN to put on. So obviously, they're putting on guys like, okay, hey, we're going to put these two guys together, and they already agreed to it. Like, they're both under their promotional banner, so it's easier to make that fight instead of reaching across the aisle to a Top Rank or to a, PBC Matchroom or whatever. It's easier to go that way. So I see the justification behind the crossroads thing, but I just don't think that Golden Boy's looking at it like that. Unless Hester really gets outclassed, then maybe there might be think twice about it and be like, whoa, what's going on here,
Yeah, I agree. It's up to him, really. Depends if what happens to Hester on the day. But it's not too bad a card, to be fair, looking at the Fantasy Springs one, and also I think the card tomorrow, the top rank card tomorrow with Oscar Valdez, Edgar Berlanga, and Isaac Dogbe, probably in terms of names, the biggest card we've had from Top Rank since the COVID era.
Right. Yeah, I would think that that's probably going to get the bit, because as of right now, I think Franco Moloney had the highest ratings.
Yeah,
I think
so. Yeah,
right. So I'd be surprised if this one tomorrow with Valdez and all that doesn't go to the number one spot. It should get the number one spot. So
it's going to be interesting for Valdez that this is what his second or third fight under Reynoso.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, but I mean, do you think somebody like, because obviously Ryan Garcia and Oscar Valdez both train under Reynoso, do you think they've sparred each other? Because they're kind of similar in weight. I mean, they're not too far off. 130, 135.
Probably not.
You don't think they spar? You don't think they've kind of mentioned it like, hey, you guys want to go at each other? Like,
they probably tried, but I imagine Ryan probably said no.
Well, what if Oscar said no? You never know.
I'm sure Ryan had some excuse not to get in there.
So going back to Takahara, Hester, who do you got?
You have to go with Hector Takahara. I think everything's there for him to come out on top. A-side, up-and-coming fighter, taller. Mosquito Hester's kind of small. So even if Hector Takahara just decided to play it safe and kept him on the end of the jab for probably a 10-rounder, I haven't checked, but I would imagine for 10 rounds. Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I'm going to lead towards Takahara too, mostly because, like I mentioned, his height and his reach advantage. I think, and I'm going back to it, I think the work that he gets at that Robert Garcia Boxing Academy in Riverside, California is a big thing. I think that's an X factor for a lot of these fighters, and he's been with Robert Garcia and their stable for quite a long time now, so he kind of knows the ins and outs. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to count Hester out. I think Hester is still going to have a chance, and I think he'll get in some good shots and have some moments. Regardless, I think it's going to be an entertaining fight from a competitive standpoint. It should produce some decent moments. So,
in the main event, who are you going for in the main?
Oh, is that really a question? Come on, Samuel Vargas, man, by knockout. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to probably agree with. I would have said Vergil Ortiz in, I don't know, less than 6 or 7 rounds. So
I say less than 5. I say Vergil Ortiz within 5. Sammy Vargas fought Danny Garcia, right? He fought Danny Garcia, Amir Khan.
Yeah.
Who else? Are those the 2 biggest names? At least recent?
The most recent, biggest names that he's fought, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, I think in terms of like kind of a step up, you're kind of putting him in there with the guy who's been in there with some high-level guys. Obviously world champ like Danny Garcia, Khan, regardless of what you think of Khan, he has been in some big fights and he has taken some pretty difficult fights. So he's I would consider him high level. So, it's just a question like, is Ortiz just too much for Sammy Vargas? Which he probably is, especially, since Vargas has been in the, been in there with quite a few high level guys. But like you said, you say Ortiz within 7, I say within 5. TKO or KO? Or what do you think?
Probably TKO. I would have thought, Vargas hasn't been pulled out too many times. I think Vergil Ortiz will probably take a couple of rounds just to kind of get his eye in, and then he'll probably get him out of there. Vergil Ortiz is, on the verge of big things. It could have been this year, maybe next year now due to the coronavirus. But he's also in a tricky division, a lot of big names, a lot of big fights. But he's the real deal. Like Josh said, it's every time you see him in the gym, it's very professional. There's no messing around, keeps himself to himself. And, he's got his eye on the goal and what he wants to achieve. And, he's going to give 110% to get there. So
assuming Ortiz gets the win, who would you want to see him against next? If you were his promoter, which fight would you try to make next? Because I think he's pretty close in the rankings. I don't know if it's like WBO or any of that stuff, but like, regardless of those rankings, you as a promoter,
yeah, I think
Right, it might be WBA, yeah. But ideally, who's a realistic fight that you can make that be like a step up?
I don't know whether it's realistic, but fights that I'd like to see in terms of style, like a Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, somebody like that. But you just got that stupidness of wrong side of the street, and so it's kind of fight would be good. But
you know what I think is realistic, just because they're both they're both in a division where all the welterweights, they obviously are, most of the best ones are at PBC, so they're kind of on the outside looking in. I could see Ortiz and Crawford going at it. I could see Top Rank making an offer to Ortiz and Golden Boy because they need a fighter, and Ortiz is obviously, knocking everybody out, so he brings that to the table. He brings the Mexican fan base, I could see. I don't know if it's after that or what, but I could see Crawford and Top Rank making an offer to Ortiz, especially if they get boxed out again by the PBC guys.
I don't know. The rumors you hear about Crawford's next opponent is kind of, Kell Brook, and then they keep saying Kell Brook pricing himself out. So they're talking about him fighting. Is it Robinson? Is it?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
I can't remember his first name. Is it Ray Robinson?
I think something like that. I remember Robinson. I don't know what the first name was. I mean, with the whole Crawford thing, though, he's obviously good. You could see that he has talent. He just needs the names on his resume. Wouldn't you, as a promoter, or maybe ESPN just kind of has a stranglehold, no, we want him on our network. But wouldn't you just pay him and be like, okay, cool, we'll send you to Fox to fight Sean Porter or something like that? Yeah, go do it. We have confidence in our guy to go take your belt, I mean, I think that's what they have to do.
I mean, Golden Boy have done it, a couple of times this year, so I don't see why other people don't start doing it. Golden Boy ended up getting, was it Texera, went to a Top Rank show. Joshua Franco went to a Top Rank show, and both came back with world titles.
Right.
So, I don't know whether they just want to keep their A star, the face of their promotion at home. But the problem is he's not getting any younger. You look at his reign at 140. He did mop up, but unfortunately at that time there wasn't any real big names there.
Right.
So when he retires and you look back in years to come, and all those fighters have retired, and you don't know who they are anymore because they're not big names and they weren't world title holders. You got to look at that body of work and think Crawford's going to look back on it and think, geez, I should have fought, Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence. So, regardless of whether he wins or loses, if you put yourself in there, you dare to be great, it's still respectable, isn't it?
Right. No, you're right. You're right. So, and then real quick before we wrap up here, Gilberto Ramirez, I think just recently announced that he split from Top Rank officially, which I think everybody saw coming. Where does he land?
DAZN. It's the only place, really. I think the PBC don't have any people at his weight. Obviously, he was at Top Rank. Golden Boy don't really have any fighters at that weight, so probably
Matchroom.
Matchroom USA, on DAZN, so that Bivol and people like that are looking for fights. Callum Johnson. I think that's the only one that makes sense. The rumor is he actually bought himself out. It wasn't actually an amicable split, but he actually bought his contract out because they still had fights on it. And he fell down to his wife. If we're being honest, that's what happened. His wife took over as his manager, demanding too much money just for easy fights. And obviously Top Rank, wasn't beneficial for them. So, they started arguing about it. And I think the rumor is he bought himself out. So he'll probably end up at DAZN and, fight those guys I mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see him go with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom. Regardless, I think he'll be in the DAZN banner and kind of go from there. But as
was he 40-0 with no record?
Yeah. I think the most prominent fights he had was Jesse Hart, right? He fought him twice. I think that was it. He's 40-0. It's come on, man. Throw him in there with Bivol. Sign with Matchroom and throw him in there with Bivol on DAZN.
Yeah, you meant Bivol, Joe Smith Jr., Callum Johnson.
Yeah, even a Sergey Kovalev. Throw him in there with Sergey Kovalev.
Yeah, Kovalev's a name. He's not getting any younger, and he seems to be going off the rails. With his court cases and his drinking and stuff like that. And those big paydays from Canelo, he's probably fucking drunk as a skunk now. But probably be a good time to catch him.
Right. But we'll see. We'll see where Ramirez lands. But I think it's a pretty realistic expectation that he lands on DAZN, possibly with more with Matchroom than Golden Boy. But I could see maybe Golden Boy. Oscar De La Hoya, Mexican American. Like, you never know.
He's got the image. He's tall. He's in a good weight division. Handsome looking dude. Mexican. Obviously the Mexicans love their fighters. So
yeah.
But then they're gonna have to do cross promotion. Golden Boy, off the top of my head, I can't think of many, if any, people in his weight division there. But yeah, it's on DAZN, so they can work with Matchroom.
No, right, yeah. I think that even if he does go with Golden Boy, at least Matchroom and Golden Boy are under DAZN, so that makes them a lot closer to be able to make fights regardless. So at least he's still kind of that under that banner regardless. So you never know, man. I think Golden Boy is the X factor here. My guess would be Matchroom, but I wouldn't be surprised if he signs Golden Boy.
Yeah. Then obviously he's Mexican, so he'll get a WBC belt.
In his inaugural fight under DAZN.
Yeah. Just in the mail, in the email, like.
Congratulations.
Oh man. Yeah.
But obviously, like you mentioned, tomorrow's Top Rank, or this week, I think we're recording this on a Monday, so tomorrow's Top Rank on ESPN card, the next installment of their ESPN in the Bubble series this week, is headlined by Oscar Valdez and all that stuff. So that should be a good card. That should be their highest rated card in terms of television ratings so far. And then
Valdez, Jason Velez. Then you got Edgar Berlanga against Eric Moon. Don't blink because you'll miss that one. Edgar Berlanga's 13-0, 13 knockouts. You got Isaac Dogbe coming back, and then just an 8-rounder against Chris Avalos. So three good fights out of the 5.
Yeah. Sounds like a pretty solid card, at least from a names perspective. It should be pretty entertaining. And Valdez always seems to be in, like, he always has to have some drama in his fights, regardless of who he's fighting. So that's what I look forward to too, is that he always gets into some type of drama within the fight, and then like you're just like, what the hell's going on around here? And then he comes back and wins. So I kind of hope that happens again, but we'll see.
Like you touched on, obviously, the Adam Lopez fight when we had Adam on here and he dropped him.
Right.
Kind of woke him up, I guess, and Valdez managed to stop him, and then it ended up, a lot of people thought it was an early stoppage. So yeah, there's always drama around this fight.
Yeah, so hopefully we get some again from a fan perspective. And obviously this Friday, this upcoming weekend, Vergil Ortiz and Samuel Vargas on the first pandemic show for DAZN, and the co-main event, Mosquito Hester and Hector Takahara, both a Golden Boy fight right there as well. So, I'm just glad that DAZN is starting up now. I'm glad they're getting the ball rolling, because I'm glad that Top Rank and ESPN has been getting the ball rolling too, but at least another major network is jumping in, so we can kind of have some different options around here,
Yeah, hopefully DAZN come back and give us some different fights. And you got Frank Warren, he's back with his shows over in the UK for people that want to watch early morning fights over in the US, because of the time difference. And then obviously, at the start of August, you have Matchroom Square Gardens. So we have the Eddie Hearn shows coming back. So slowly but surely, we're kind of getting back to normal, best that we can in this crazy times, I guess.
Yeah, I heard that on the first Matchroom Backyard Square Garden, the guest of honor in that show is going to be Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Did you hear that?
Can't imagine.
You never know, man. We've seen crazier stuff. You've seen crazier stuff. But, as we wrap up here, Mike, go ahead and let our listeners know where they can follow us and where they can find us.
at the last round 12 on Twitter and Instagram. And if anybody wants to hit us up for guests of ideas or anything they'd like to see on the show, because people have been doing, you can do that on the Instagram or the Twitter. Just slide in the DMs like Danny.
Slide in the DMs. We should put that in our social media bios. Slide in the DMs. But, once again, our big thanks to super flyweight WBA world champion Joshua Franco for jumping on this week here on the last round. We appreciate his time. And obviously look out for his rematch against Andrew Moloney, which will be on ESPN hopefully sometime in the future. That should be another competitive fight, another exciting fight to watch. So don't miss that fight. And then as of right now, I know we're in talks with some people for next week to jump on as a guest. But as of right now, we're not going to reveal any names because we're talking to a couple people. But hopefully you guys like these guests that we bring on. And like Mike said, if you want to see anybody specifically, reach out, have them reach out, or if you want us to talk about some certain things in the sport, message us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, and we'll try to touch on those subjects and talk to these different types of people as we go forward here on our show. But once again, I'm Danny Z for my co-host Michael Shepard. This is the last round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is the Last Round Podcast.